Hello, my name is Anil Suri and I am Head of Portfolio Analytics and the Innovation Development Center in the CIO office within the Global Wealth and Investment Management business at Bank of America. Today I want to talk to you about three very important topics. First is an overview of our collaboration with the EDHEC Research Institute on developing a very robust framework for goals-based investing, which then serves as the foundation for the EDHEC-Princeton goals-based indices. Second, I want to talk to you about some of the key insights that have been derived from this body of work. And then third, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the key benefits of the EDHEC-Princeton goals-based indices. Our collaboration with the EDHEC Risk Institute began in 2014 with the sponsorship of a research chair dedicated to developing a rigorous conceptual framework for goals-based investing. This particular framework resulted in novel insights about the levers available in risk and investment management in a goal-centric framework. We wrote about these levers, the three specific levers being diversification, hedging, and insurance, and how these could be woven together coherently was spelled out in a very technical white paper that we published in 2015. Subsequently, our work efforts have continued to figure out the best and most practically relevant ways of applying this framework for the benefit of investors. This has been a very fruitful body of work for all stakeholders involved. From an investment practitioner perspective, we at Bank of America have been leaders in the field of goals-based investing for well over a decade. However, we are constantly looking for new approaches on how to innovate in this arena to provide even more rigorous and more robust investment advice to our clients built on a very solid conceptual foundation. And the body of work with EDHEC certainly represents such an effort. Equally, this has been a very rapidly evolving area from an academic and conceptual perspective over the last decade, and certainly needs a very strong intellectual foundation on which to build. We believe that both the conceptual advances that have been made as well as some of the practical work that you will see represent the best of both those perspectives, which is the academic rigor combined with very useful practical investment expertise. The EDHEC-Princeton goals-based indices represent a practical application of this framework, and we believe are very well positioned to provide very sound and rigorous advice to investors. We are very pleased to provide the sponsorship for the research behind the EDHEC-Princeton goals-based indices. This practical application has expanded the working group to now include a world-renowned research university, namely Princeton University, which is an excellent new development. When we think about all the different people involved in creating the conceptual as well as practical underpinnings of these new indices, we believe we have brought together the best the world has to offer in terms of intellectual rigor as well as investment expertise to bear upon the very tough but crucially relevant problem of financially preparing for retirement in the current environment. Let me now turn to the three key insights that one can derive from the body of work we've done related to goals-based investing. Those three insights relate to: one, properly defining a goal; two, the most appropriate definition of a risk relative to a goal; and three, the key attributes of an effective and efficient approach used to pursuing those goals. So let me first start with talking about an appropriate and usable definition of a goal. Properly defined and personally meaningful financial goals can always be mapped to what we call SMART goals. SMART goals is an acronym that was coined by G.T. Dolan in 1981 in an article in the journal Management Review, SMART is used as an acronym, with each alphabet in that acronym standing for a specific attribute. And the various attributes are S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R for relevant, and T for time bound. A well-defined and personally meaningful financial goal will have all 5 of these attributes. Such a SMART goal can always be wrapped into a wealth goal or an income goal. Wealth goals are typically one-time desired cash flows, and income goals are recurring desired cash flows. So that kind of, from a high-level perspective, specifies what a goal is, which then leads us to the second key insight, which is how to define risk relative to a goal in the goals-based investing framework. The most generally applicable definition of risk was developed by the International Standards Organization, and effectively it boils down to something like the effects of uncertainty on objectives. This is a domain-free definition of risk, which is very broadly applicable. When it comes to investing, and in particular goals-based investing, it's very useful directionally to think about risk as only something that has an undesirable effect on the achievement of the goal. Goals, as we just discussed, can be wealth or income goals, and therefore risk is something which relates to the underachievement of that wealth or income goal in the future. Many may have encountered a phrase such as fluctuation of capital versus permanent loss of capital. Goals-based investing naturally aligns itself with this phrase because it really concerns we concern ourselves with the permanent loss of capital when the money is actually needed, typically at a long-term future date, as opposed to fluctuation of capital, which is the intermittent fluctuation that you experience along the way towards achieving a long-term financial goal. So in summary, risk is really about underachieving a financial goal, which is typically long-term in nature and not about short-term fluctuations in markets. The third key insight is the key attributes of an effective and efficient approach to pursuing goals from an investment perspective. So we've identified 3 key levers, operating levers, that an investment practitioner can use to design such an investment solution or a strategy that is designed to achieve goals. The 3 key levers are hedging, diversification, and insurance. Let me speak briefly about each one of those. Hedging refers to the least risky way of achieving a particular goal. Diversification is the most effective way of pursuing returns relative to achieving a goal. And then insurance refers to this dynamic interplay where we define sort of the worst case scenario, or as best as we can, in order that could be realized in the pursuit of those goals when we do take on some risk relative to those goals. So those 3 levers essentially come down to making judicious trade-offs between downside protection and upside participation, or in other words, between risk and return. When we do this in a goals-based investment strategy, we have to always keep in mind that the most appropriate definition of risk is about underachievement of financial goals, which are specific desired future cash flows, and also the most appropriate and effective way of achieving returns is to invest in compensated sources or factors of return and not to put money in uncompensated sources of return. Let me now turn to some of the key benefits of the EDHEC-Princeton goals-based indices. From an investor's perspective, the EDHEC-Princeton goals-based indices show how to prudently take on a calculated amount of financial risk while improving the chances of achieving a financial goal, especially when compared to other approaches. Specifically, in the retirement context, the EDHEC-Princeton goals-based indices show that how to pursue a wealth or income goal while controlling the underperformance one could experience relative to achieving such a target. All of this, of course, while respecting the investor's risk tolerance and despite their often tight financial budgets. From an investment practitioner's perspective, the EDHEC-Princeton goals-based indices demonstrate an innovative yet practical approach to designing a very goal-centric but risk-controlled investment solution with three distinct benefits. The first benefit is that such a solution would clearly be in the client's best interest because it's all about pursuing a financial goal which is personally meaningful for the client. Second, these strategies based on this approach have the potential to be far more efficient and effective than comparable traditional approaches. For example, in the retirement context, we demonstrate how such an approach would outperform a conventional glide path based target date approach on a variety of different metrics. And finally, the third distinct advantage is that such an approach leverages the investment practitioner's existing expertise in investing across multiple asset classes with only a moderate amount of additional innovation. So in sum, when you look at all these three distinct advantages from an investment practitioner's perspective, this is a very compelling road to explore and to use in practice to help clients achieve their personally meaningful financial goals. From both an investment practitioner's perspective as well as an end investor's perspective, the EDHEC goals-based indices represent an important proof of concept. They are completely transparent, they are completely rules-based, and most importantly, the index-based results are available almost in real time for a very practical and useful demonstration of this concept, which is very rigorous from an intellectual perspective, but also very useful and practical for all key stakeholders involved. I hope you will take the opportunity to explore the website and learn more about this great body of work. Thank you very much.